Back to the Lewis Real Estate, invest in yourself. I have sitting with me one of my good friends. It turned out to be now my best friend. He goes by the name of Javil. Little quick story on how I met this gentleman before I kind of weigh in. Ja is one of probably the greatest guys I've met in my 60 years of living. Let me tell you why. One is because this is a gentleman that I have observed over the last couple of years that has a unique gift of bringing people together. Don't know how he does it, but he does it. I can tell you this, he's a great guy. I call him the mayor of West Hartford, even though he's not officially the mayor, but he knows everybody here. And when I first got into West Hartford, he was one of the first gentlemen to welcome me into the area and introduce me to everyone that I actually know now. So with that said, Ja, introduce yourself to the audience, man.
So, hi everybody. I like to go by Ja, J-A-H, as in happy. Moved to West Hartford in 2012 when my wife and I had purchased our house. And then at the time I was working with Sleepy's. Okay. So I moved my territory into this area. And my home base was in Bishop's Corner, right down the street from me.
Where did you come prior to that, though? Where did you come from prior to going to Sleepy's?
So professionally, my first sales job ever was my first sales job was in selling cell phones and satellite dishes. Okay. With a company called Wireless Retail, and within a few months, I was their top salesperson. And I was training and hiring people. So, nice. And then I was actually at UConn at the time, and started just to kind of window shop, for like seeing what opportunities are in the market. Right. I actually applied at a few places, including Verizon Wireless, and I landed a job going into my sophomore year that summer. For the base pay was $75K, plus commission and bonuses, but I had to work full time. My mom was a single mom that raised us, and it was really important to all of us that I went to college, but really her too, right? And I had to make a decision. I was like, I can't not go to school, because it would have been at the Waterbury Mall, and okay. I graduated from UConn, and that's over in Stores. So roughly like a little over an hour drive from where I lived. And so I told them, can I do seasonal? And they're like, no. Can I do part-time, like work, I could probably get like 25 hours, maybe 30. They're like, no, it's full-time or nothing. So I had to walk away from a job like that, going into my sophomore year at UConn. But, and then on my next sales job, I worked for the UConn Foundation. So in the nonprofit sphere, calling friends and alumni of UConn for donations. Right. And then that's when I realized I had something special, especially over the phone.
Let me stop you for a minute. Is that when you say you realize you have something special, is that in large part to your attendance of UConn? How much credit do you give you going to the university to the development of your personality?
So I did take a lot of sales classes, but that was afterwards. Okay. And then I was taking business classes and stuff like that. So I think in reference to structuring how to be productive, there's some fundamental stuff that I've learned. And then you also learn how to study and how to research. So there are some benefits, but it came at, I paid out of my pocket. I had to take student loans and stuff. So it was debt that was associated with it too. Right. So I'm proud that I went. I love UConn. But in reference to the gift, that was God given. Yeah.
So it was always there.
Yeah.
So something a part of you. Yeah. You had an opportunity to go to UConn and kind of help sharpen that a little bit. Yeah. So how do you transition all of that, what we just talked about, and land in West Hartford?
Yeah. So going from one career to the next, I had the flexibility to kind of choose like where I wanted to work because of the skill set. So met my wife. I had a condo in Waterbury at the time. And she didn't like living in Waterbury.
Not many people.
Yeah.
Like nothing against Waterbury, but
I get it.
I understand.
Yeah, coming from New York City, so I was born in the Bronx, dirt poor. My mom had us when she was 20. Compared to the Bronx, I loved Waterbury.
I get it.
And the diversity in the school was refreshing.
It's a step in the right direction.
That was a gift.
But now you transitioned. You're in West Hartford.
Yep. So when we started house shopping,
Okay.
West Hartford was one of the key towns. So I only had two rules. I wanted to be right off the highway because I would see my grandmother at least twice a month.
Okay.
And I always hate it when you're driving a long distance that when you get off the highway, it feels like you're done.
Right.
And if you have like another 20, 30 minutes is a lot. So I
Yeah.
want to be right off. So once you get off the highway,
Right.
and then, I'm always working. So to be able to have two bathrooms was important too,
Yeah.
at least.
Right.
So if someone's in the bathroom or
Right, I
taking a
get
while, I can get out and keep moving.
Get moving.
Yeah.
So you landed in West Hartford primarily because it was easy access on and off the highway,
That
or was
played a
there
role.
something else in the community that attracted you?
So I give that credit to my wife.
Okay.
So the school system's incredible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young families in West Hartford, and the diversity is off the charts. I'm not sure if she realized how good the diversity is.
Right.
So, like, to give you an example, my family, my dad was born in Antigua,
Okay.
and my mom was born in Barbuda.
Right.
So, even though they call me Yankee, that means I'm American.
Right.
I'm 100% by blood, West Indian.
Right.
And my wife's dad was born in Mexico City. So
Okay.
our parents were born in another country, right?
Right.
My son, who's very mixed, right, obviously, his best friend across the street. So the dad is from Ecuador, so Central America, and the mom is from South America.
Wow.
And then his other friend, one block away, both parents were born in Turkey.
Oh, nice.
So and you'll find that all over,
Right.
At least in my neighborhood in Elmwood, you'll find that all over, which is like wonderful.
So you got to West Hartford.
Yeah.
You realized that it was a very diverse climate.
Yeah.
So now it was just a matter of you making a professional footing in West Hartford,
Yeah.
apart from just having your family here.
Yeah. So obviously, I have access to all the numbers in the retail stores.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a territory. So I think at that time our territory had about 20 stores.
Okay.
One of the things I specialized at that time is an underperforming store based on the market.
Right.
I can go in and maximize
Change
it and then be able to, manage all the surrounding stores within the territory. So we saw the potential, we saw the foot traffic.
Now, when you're saying who is this Sleepy's at the time?
Yep, the management team at Sleepy's. So, we were able to increase over $500,000 in gross revenue that one first year,
Right.
I was there. So tremendous production.
So Sleepy's is responsible for you getting into West Hartford.
No, so my wife and I chose West Hartford.
Okay, your wife and you chose West Hartford from a residential standpoint.
Yeah, and I was already
But from
working
a business standpoint.
I transferred so I could be closer to home.
Right.
To West Hartford.
So you left Sleepy's and
I was still there.
And then
I just transferred territories.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So after your career in Sleepy's and a long career in sales is what you're doing.
Yep.
You obviously went into other spaces.
I did.
And you think that experience, or what is it about that experience that made you so good with connecting with people? Because that's where I see your strength.
Yep.
It's like how well you connect with people, even outside of business stuff, right?
So that started with training a lot of different salespeople. So when you want to be an effective trainer in anything, whether it's sports, you customize it to the strengths, and then you understand the process from start to finish.
Right.
So I noticed that there's a lot of benefits to relationship selling. So building relationships, so asking questions and actually naturally being curious.
Right.
And so through that style of selling and building relationships, just to be able to get a transaction, I noticed that transferred really well when I had to network and I had to get in the community, get more exposure, get into certain rooms. So when I transitioned to Relax the Back here in the center, there was a big opportunity to marketing because they had an amazing product.
Right.
And nobody knew about the brand, and they were in West Hartford for over 20 years.
Right.
So, just going out into the community, starting with the chamber. The center also has a networking group just for the businesses. So just being able to communicate, like at that time when I first started with Relax the Back, I always liked doing fundraisers.
Okay.
So I decided to do a fundraiser for anti-bullying.
Okay.
So, you have something like, something
that's meaningful
and that you're passionate about, right? So that passion is when you go to introduce yourself and talk to people, you're trying to invite them to be part of that passion. If it aligns, it really works well.
Right.
So we actually had Zahara and the owner Dorian, they actually donated the food for the event.
Nice.
We had a lot of engagement, and that kind of snowballed into just getting to know different people of influence within the neighborhood. And
I mean, from my experience, I remember us first meeting, and my observation of us first meeting is I just came into the West Hartford area, and I was at, where was I? I think I was at Sophia's.
Cafe Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia's having coffee, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to recruit agents and all this other stuff, and so I'm sitting there having coffee, and I saw you come up at the cash register, and you were getting coffee, but I guess there was another gentleman that had some questions or whatever the case may be, and you were so like people orientated with this individual and wanting to help him that it attracted me to you in terms of what your style was in terms of building relationships. And I was like, wow, I got to get to know this guy. So I gave you my card and introduced myself. And I'm thinking, in my mind, I have to have him on my team as an agent because I saw how you connected with people, right? And I was like, he could be a very valuable source. But as we begin to know each other, or as we become to know each other over the course of the years, we developed a good friendship and like a brotherhood, and I expected a brotherhood. And then I just see how warm you are with people, and everybody that I know in this town is attributed to knowing you, right? And just everybody knows Ja, right? And I haven't met anyone that has a bad word to say about Ja, except maybe me now, because I've gotten so close to you as a brother. It's like, and I love it because we kind of push each other, right? And we kind of do that, and I love what you do in terms of, always trying to improve a community, one way or another, right? You're always trying to improve. And now I think last time we talked is you're working on a fatherhood initiative.
Yeah. So the name of I'm developing a nonprofit.
Okay.
So the name that we chose is ABBA, so ABBH as in happy. So actually means Papa or Daddy or Baba in Hebrew. So you actually, if you call in someone Baba, that means you actually like have a relationship with your dad.
Okay.
So, my dad didn't raise me.
Right.
And my mom had my twin brother and I when she was 20.
Right.
And she got married when we were 10. So we have 3 younger siblings.
Okay.
And, in high school, with that age gap, I felt more like an uncle. So
uncle to your little brothers.
To my younger brothers, my younger siblings.
Right.
And Jadakiss was a baby. She's 14 years younger than me. So she was born my freshman year in high school.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? My most important job would be to be a father. There's not anything more important I could do than that.
Wow.
So that
is that because of you taking care of your siblings as well and not having a father in the household?
Both,
is that
right? So the trauma of not having a father and being aware of that trauma and some of the disadvantages that come from that. And I noticed I had anger, especially it came out in sports. So it worked really well in sports.
Okay.
So, I knew I wanted to end the cycle of a dad not raising his kids in my family, in my cycle.
Right.
So, that was really important to me. So it changed my mindset, going into college. I had a different mindset in reference to what I'm looking for in a relationship. And when it was time to start my own thing, I kept meditating, and what I kept hearing in the meditation and praying was fathering. So I decided that let's move forward and make that happen.
Yeah.
And, try to design it where it has the potential of doing great things.
Well, I can tell you this. I think it's definitely an important endeavor in any space, right? Fatherhood. Because if you look at least me, I grew up also without a dad, single mom. My mom had me when she was like 16.
Wow.
Right? So, and then it's just me and my sister. And not having a man or a positive role model in the household and seeing negative stuff come out. Sometimes your mentality, your conduct, whatever the case may be, is shaped by something outside of, a responsible man giving you proper guidance. So that is very important in terms of what we need to do as men, especially men of color, because a lot of times, it's also younger men of color that grow up in those similar situations that are the most vulnerable and kind of get sucked up and chewed up by society because of all the pressures they have to go through by not having the guidance of a dad. So I definitely honor you for kind of taking on that and championing that movement and that cause. And I know it's going to be very important to younger listeners and men of color to kind of inspire us in some way to try to come together, because that's another difficult part that men of color have. It's just like sitting in the same room without kind of hating on each other and trying to learn how to be unified and going in one direction. So you have a tough challenge ahead of you. One other thing I wanted to kind of mention in terms of what you're doing in that is I think the issue that you and I sometimes come up with, not an issue in a bad way.
Just a difference in perspective.
Like I say, now I know now I can get some clarity behind that, because I know that you took that on from having other siblings and actually being the man of your house, responsible for like the caring of your other siblings, right? With me, I had one sister, but I didn't take that role on as the father role to a younger sister. We're very close in age, right? So now I can get and I understand more. So it's like, even when we have the real estate team, how, dude, you like to feed everybody, you like to bring food around, you're like the father of the everything. And sometimes I'm like, Job, man, why every time I tuck around you're feeding everybody? And you always try to teach me the importance of connecting with people and taking care of people that way. Where I'm more on like, let's get some production here. Let's get some productivity here. And you always try to tell me, Scott, the way you get productivity is to kind of make people kind of feel like your family and take care of them like your family.
So working in corporate America for a long time, you realize you get to interview, like the closing interviews, you get to work close with HR, and you'll notice majority of the people who leave had nothing to do with the financial piece. Okay. And
what do you mean by that, though?
So, like, you would think they left to make more money in another company, or it's something financially driven.
Right.
And you'll notice a lot of times it was culture driven. And I ended up becoming a culture specialist, where I'll go in and...
Culture driven meaning what, though?
So
color of skin or?
No, so within like the environment. Okay. So the energy in the environment, whether it's negative, positive, it can be male dominant. Okay. It could be egotistical. Yep. It could just be focused just on results, and so, or is not focused enough on results. Right. So it's the overall environment that's going to lead to productivity. But your biggest asset in anything you do, like professionally and as a business owner, you're only as strong as your team. Right. Right. And if you want freedom and you want to be able to work on the business as an owner and go from owning, like in your example, over 10 assets and try to expand on that and get over 20 assets and you're striving to become a billionaire, how are you going to get there without creating more champions and creating a culture in order to make more champions? And, it's not just motivating them financially, it's also making sure they align with the company's values and your values. Right. So, that's pivotal. So, a lot of times when I go into a territory, it wasn't just production that I had to focus on. A lot of times it was culture. I remember going into one area in Western Massachusetts. We mainly focused on communication and over communication. And I know sometimes you've got frustrated with me in the past about that. Yeah. And I know how important the over communication is, because there was environments where we assumed the message was clear, right, and we said it like black and white and sent it in writing black and white, and it still wasn't clear because people learn and understand things differently. Mm-hmm. So whether they're a verbal learner, we have to have a conversation, right, or visual, right, where you have to read it or see it, or kinesthetic, where you have to touch it, and then most people are a blend of it. Right. And then some people just need reminders, and I like building that into the culture, that over communication. Right. So, so you have to be effective. You have to go in asking questions.
I think I agree with that, and I understand, and I see the value to that, and I always understood and saw the value in terms of what you were bringing. Mm-hmm. I think from my perspective is attracting the right people that are action doers or doers, because I know that the hardest part in terms of building a team are getting people that, some people think one thing and they say, I believe this, and then they won't move. Once they get outside that meeting, they're just kind of literally sitting there, waiting for things to happen, as opposed to taking actual steps to kind of make things happen.
Like the initiative.
Right. So I think that's, having that culture is definitely important, but the people that you're attracting into that culture,
so that's
has to have that mindset and that kind of be willing to kind of walk with that.
Especially like in your business on the real estate side, as owning a real estate firm, that's having a strong recruiting strategy is huge, and being able to understand like that's part of your core values. You need to be a person that's hungry, right, that's going to create initiative. And that's part of the whole process of interviewing, and then being able to pivot, which you're excellent at. If they're not having those behaviors, being able to, retrain if the retrain is not working, to be able to pivot appropriately, to be able to get the right people. But that you got to put the time and the resources into
time
it, which is not simple when the market is the way it is.
The time and the resources are in one and of the same. Mm-hmm. But I think the people, if you're motivated, like sometimes, like from my perspective, you're willing to lose if you have the right person that has the right motive and in the right drive that's actually doing
taking
something.
The right risks.
Yeah. So it's you, because you win by losing, because you're investing in the person, and you can see that the person is actually genuinely caring about what it is they do. That's you, right? Now, in terms of where you are now, because I know you're doing a lot of stuff on your own, mm-hmm, you're creating a lot of different nonprofits. What do you want to tell the public about what it is that you're doing, how it is that they may be able to get involved, and what you're bringing to the community, going forward?
So we're in the process of applying for grants. Okay. And then one of the biggest pieces that I want to make sure we execute properly is an internship, a student-run internship program. The donation job I had at UConn was 100% student-run. Right. And it'll be nice to bring a system like that into my current business model. So those young individuals are getting experience in the areas that they want to have careers in, whether it's marketing.
How do you think you're going to do that? What is the motivation?
So leveraging some of the relationships that we have at UConn. Okay. Right here in West Hartford, we have the UConn School of Business here, right? Yeah. For the grad program, and then the undergrad too. We also have St. Joseph's, right? And we have University of Hartford. So it's having a great plan, number one, because when you bring them in, they have to be able to do a certain, you have to have funding, and they got to be able to do work, right? And then, really talking to the right people at those universities, and then just getting started.
Yeah, and I think that's you may run into this or you may not. The challenge is getting people to do something without some type of monetary reward, because they have to eat. Yeah. And I think what I hear you're saying is you're waiting on grants so you can fulfill that monetary reward?
Not necessarily. So it won't. So that won't be 100%. 100%. Like 100% not paid.
Okay.
So we'll kind of figure that out as we're building it.
Okay.
Because obviously a lot of the work will be profitable, you
Right.
know. So grants are one part of it.
Right.
So just making sure, and then having the right team, you can have people like have a grant writer, have people that specialize in helping you apply or at least find the grants so you can apply and then have a schedule. Another part is donations and fundraising. So right now in the process of working with a couple team members to figure out when we want to have like the introduction, like big fundraiser. What I'm most excited about is doing a farm to table event. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Let me ask you a question, because I just thought about this as we were talking. So this ABBA thing is geared toward fatherhood,
Yep.
right? Primarily men of color, but everyone is welcome. Anyone is welcome, right? But being men of color, we're kind of like, hey, brothers, we need to step up. We need to step up our responsibility.
And we're bleeding the most in the inner cities because of the mass incarceration. So that's a big area of need, and there is a lot of funding there. Right,
but the massive incarceration has to do with a lot of the lack of responsibility that we take as men, black men of color, to our other brothers of color. Sometimes we just leave them to go. Like, I don't want to deal with that dude. I'm done. Right.
Not supporting. Yeah.
Right, because we know that a large part of us grow up without dads, but yet we're not willing to take the role on kind of being the examples, right? And it's not easy, right? It's not. But I think I guess what I'm getting at, just for an idea purposes, because you know me, I do not like to rely on grants.
No.
Like, I think the government is just gonna make it hard to give you $10, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you can appeal to a larger audience and maybe just take on memberships, because I think
that's a good idea.
Because men who want to be responsible fathers, and I read this in the New York Times, where they have a men's group that literally get together in Central Park somewhere. And they kind of go for walks together. It was funny when I read it, but I was like, man, that's pretty cool, right? And they joined a group, and you had to join that group by membership. So now you know people were there because they were looking to connect with like-minded men who were dads raising kids, and they were making it a kind of a community, a fun thing, kind of like what moms do when they go to the parks, and you know, moms have play dates with all the other moms and the kids, and it was kind of the reverse effect, but it had to do with dads.
I love
kind of doing that, and so I saw that and I read that story, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, right? Because dads don't really know how to be dads, especially dads that come from single parent homes. We don't really know how to be dads. We no one taught us, right? We're learning as we kind of go. But we can inspire each other.
No question.
To kind of do that, man. So maybe you might want to think about, you know, reaching out to that and say, hey, let's, in terms of this is how you can maybe satisfy some of those fundings. Just hey, let's form a group and require a membership, because I think people that you're trying to help in that space, they really want to be motivated. They have to be motivated to want to be kind of better dads, and we can all use that, man.
And that's the first step, right? You have to have, you know, trying to get someone. You can take the can with the water, and you can't make them drink. Right?
Lord, do I know that?
So so like everything we've been designing is focused on people who want to grow. Right. If you don't want to grow, here's information. Come see us when we're ready, and hopefully when things get trendy, like if you look at anything new on the market, like when iPhones first came out, right? There's about 20% of the market that will just grab it. They're very impulsive. And then you have that big lump in the middle that when it starts to take on and they see that it's working, now most people have iPhones. And then almost everyone uses a version of it, and it's called a smartphone now. So, hopefully
people are attracted to things that they see that are successful, but they're hesitant.
Not everyone to take the risk
at the beginning. Right. No, I get it. I understand that wholeheartedly, man. So with that said, what are some of the other stuff? What events have you got coming up? I know you and I talked about possibility running an event in one of the spaces or anything. What is your idea in terms of some possible events, and what are you working on in that regards?
So, knowledge is power. And as you know, I value relationships and networking. So one of the things that you created is we have access to space.
Right.
So I partnered with Microsoft funds AI training.
Right.
So the nonprofit they chose is called Steam Train. So they do AI training. So we're hosting AI training March 22nd.
Okay.
Here in our building.
Right.
So 998 Farmington Ave.
Right.
Suite 103 lower
103.
level.
Okay.
West Hartford, Connecticut 06107.
Right.
And that's a Thursday, and it'll be from 4:30 to 6:30. It's on the Steam Train website.
Now, what is it? Give me a little more information on that. You said training on AI.
AI, yeah,
Okay.
Artificial intelligence.
How does that help? What is that training about? What is it?
It helps. So it helps you become more efficient at what you're doing as you get comfortable using the technology. So just like anything, you're good at using Excel now. Right, but you didn't get good at it until you started using it.
Well,
when you first use
your credit, then I
when you first
no, I get it.
When you first use
When
you first use your email,
right,
you probably was still writing letters at first, right,
yeah.
or using a typewriter.
Yeah.
But now you always go right to your cell phone and start typing the email, or you go to your laptop. Right. So that training is important, right? Trying to get
in terms of AI.
So strategically, I'm inviting and we're inviting. Executives, people who are running nonprofits, who are running successful nonprofits, so they're getting value, right? And then Lewis Real Estate gets more exposure, right. And then that gives me the opportunity to be in the room of successful executives who are running nonprofits. So,
right, but what are we teaching them? Give me some more about AI.
So one thing they can use,
what is it
right?
that you're going to be teaching them?
So teaching them how it works and how you can apply it to your work and how safe it is.
Okay.
So the AI that they mainly will be focused on will be Copilot. And it's in the business version, it's on a closed loop. So it's on your private network. Once you use it and close it's gone. No one can access it, nothing's saved. So it's very safe. So it's like understanding that aspect of it. If you're in the industry where if any information is leaked, that's a problem, correct?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. So, because I need to understand a little bit more about AI.
Yeah.
Right? Is AI going to be something that could be used that caters to an individual's personality?
Yes.
Or is it going to be like everybody sounding like the same thing?
No.
Okay.
Because it's designed to learn like you and learn your business and understand your language. And you can choose ones that only use your information, like the stuff in your computer. So how many emails do you get in a day?
So that's going to be how, let's say, my AI system will be different than somebody else's AI system because it's going to be based on what I have in my system.
And what you ask it.
But in terms of personality, how is it going to reflect the personality? Or and I know this is primarily what the training is about.
So my understanding is learning how to mirror your personality, so it can guess what you're going to ask it next, and it knows how to answer your question. So a good example is over the weekend I created a vision board, right? And in the vision board, I wanted the man in the visions to look like you and I.
Okay.
Right. So at first, obviously, wouldn't know how to do it, but by the third picture that I created in the AI, it knew to create.
I got it.
A professional black man in a suit,
right?
And I wanted to look like the future, like the ideal version of myself, to be able to influence the community, or ideal version of a representative within the community to make a difference.
Right.
And I was able to make over 30 images customized. So I did like a ABBA university. That's like reaching as far as I could imagine to be able to have a university designed by a company focused on making the community stronger because they want fathers who are engaged and present. Right. That's to me, that's a different mindset, in a caring and loving mindset.
Well, it's definitely a needed mindset. And I know that there's a lot of individuals out there that are feeling the same way that you do right now and have experienced the same things and they're looking for ways to kind of connect.
Yes.
And learn how to, because I have my daughter most every day of the week.
Yeah.
And I'm taking her to her, events and I'm taking her here and there, and 90% that I go are women.
Yep.
And it's one of the hardest things for me to do as a man and then a woman is say, how do we set up a play date and this, that, and the other? I got to maybe take her number, give her number to my wife, vice versa, right? And it's hard. So sometimes I even try to tell my wife, it's like, well, why can't you set this up with guys? Because you don't really see a lot of guys kind of doing that, right? So we don't, you know, Harper Rose is asking me for a play date is primarily the people that she's at these after school activities with, and they're with their moms, right?
And that's one of the biggest goals is to redefine like what a father does, right? And the standard of it. So hopefully, if we make enough good decisions, when a father goes out, they see more fathers.
With their kids,
and it's expected for the fathers to be there.
Right.
And then one thing you keep touching on, I circled it, one of our core values is inspire synergy.
Right.
And the way I define synergy is 1 + 1 could equal 10 or 15. It typically equals more than just 2.
Right.
So, you know, if I'm very passionate about something, I believe in it, you know, with my heart, you know, my spirit, you know, my mind. Hopefully, if it touches them, it will inspire them to be involved or do something that really has the same something from within, and then hopefully a combination of enough entities together, working together, hopefully can help, you know, move things in a better direction. So your daughter and my daughter and our sons are living in a much better environment where, like, it's not normal for a father not to be there, not to be engaged.
Well, I think it's not normal for a father not to be there anyway, right? We already know that that's not normal. I think that was a lack of responsibility of how sometimes most men, no matter where, this is learned behavior, right?
Yes.
In terms of, you know, this is what we inherit, this is a role, this is what irresponsible people do, right? It's just,
and there's some
it's a lack of irresponsibility.
There's some social pressure.
And there's some stuff that goes along with that. But I think the hard part is, and I think not the hard part, but the challenging part is, like, let's say I'm out with my daughter, I see another brother, they're out with their kids, but our kids don't know each other because they don't visit the same places.
Or they're not in the same school.
Right, so it's hard for me to say, hey bro, let's get our kids together, boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
For moms, that's kind of natural because it's easy for another woman to get up and get to know another woman, and the relationship starts there and it trickles down to the kids.
Because the way women tend to communicate.
Right, but for men, it's a little different, right? Because, especially for men of color, because for some reason we don't trust each other.
Yeah, so
right? And that's a whole nother level of psychology that we.
So
need
my
to go
degree
into.
is in sociology.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, I studied some of that, and women tend to be. I call it programming. Right, what you learn, what you inherit, the environment you're in.
Right.
You know, like there's a reason why when you eat a slice of pizza that you eat it a certain direction, right? It's a learned behavior.
Oh yeah, I just eat it, man.
Yeah.
I didn't think about direction.
Like if you go to Europe,
chopping it up.
If you go to Europe,
no, I get it.
And you watch people eat a slice of pie, like an actual slice of pie, not pizza.
Right.
They actually eat it from the crust in.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Right?
Yeah, learned behaviors.
Places.
I think learned behaviors are key, man.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, you know, hopefully, you know, we can kind of change our communication from what we're learning, like how to communicate. So you would be comfortable going up to another dad saying, hey, how you doing? And then start a conversation similar to the way moms will.
I have a question. Why can't you? I don't get it.
So I do it, but some of it is like, if it's not normal, it's not easy. So it takes a unique person, someone who like they just have a different type of personality. But if you, like when you study things like as like a scientist, you try to find like the average person or that person right in the middle. They call it the median. That median person will never be comfortable doing it if it's not normal.
But all women are? Is it feel like
I don't know if it's all
does it feel like
women.
a date?
I don't.
Is it awkward?
No, I think it's. Let me just weigh in on that. I think men of color inherently, for one reason or another, distrust each other. I think the environments that we kind of grow up is so competitive that we underestimate the importance of unity,
Yeah.
And without the importance of unity, then you can't get to those other things. No matter what, whether it's investing in each other with business, whether it's investing in being parenthood, whether it's best. And I think that's where why sports are so prominent within our communities, because that's how they build bondships. It's through athletics, through sports. They're used to that kind of relationship. Like, yeah, we play ball together, boom.
But
That's
not
like,
emotional, not emotional.
right, that's like automatic, instance.
Well, and you have like something in common. So in any tribe is the language I like to use. When you have something in common, it's easier, right? But so like
Something
you
in
touched
common
on
that you're both familiar with, though, and
So
you're
you
on the
touched
same
on a few
team,
things,
So
right?
why not like, hey, let's get the kids together and throw a football?
It's not quite that simple.
Shoot hoops.
Yeah.
Or someone may not be engaging. So like, there's some people are afraid of rejection. So let's say I go up and I say, hey,
He's not.
or you don't even know his name. You're just a guy, and you try to open a
This kid,
conversation, and then you get some rejection, or he's like he makes you feel like it's awkward. So like that's not you're not getting positive reinforcement from it.
Well,
but you touched on a few things. So one
Yep.
thing you touched on was the lack of unity, right? So you know, we all know slavery happened, right? And Jim Crow laws and all that good stuff. There's some history that we can't ignore that shapes some of the mindset, and so that's a factor. There's also what you see on TV, what you hear, in environment like in my environment I grew up in the Bronx. We're talking in the 90s. There was a lot of violence,
Yeah.
right? And then what you saw on the TV was like the show Cops,
Yep.
and the cops are white, so they're like the hero, and the criminals are black people, right? And there's some subconscious programming that happens there. So hopefully we can intentionally start working on breaking down some of those barriers, and that's not the only factor, and you can't overcome it.
No,
But you can't say it's not a factor at all. It has
No,
like
I think it
effect.
has a lot to do with it in terms of a psychological approach and the commonality that individuals may have with each other. Because the reason that gangs exist is because
Poverty.
those, not just poverty, but those guys connect, but they connect for the wrong reasons. There's
Yeah.
all negative reasons, right? I want to be a part of this
Of a family.
group, right? I want to be
Yeah.
a part of a group so much that I don't care if it's negative, but that's what I'm comfortable with. So it's not a matter of men of color being able to get together in groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of getting together to do things that are responsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like the thing that's so attractive is the things that people have the perception that is cool to do this and be.
And I like that.
And
Yeah.
act fools thinking that you're cool, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all you see when you come out of your environment.
Yeah.
What I found, which is troubling to me in so many ways, is that you may have somebody like myself that I didn't have the opportunity to go to a university, graduate with an associate's degree, a master's degree, or whatever the case may be, and therefore become a part of a fraternity that most successful and affluent young black men have actually done, lawyers, doctors, whatever the case may
like
be.
the alphas.
They're part of a fraternity.
Yeah.
So those brothers are tight together.
Yeah.
But now somebody that's not a part of a fraternity
Yeah.
can probably be just as successful as they are, or probably even more successful. They're not looked at the same as the people that are part of that fraternity.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you didn't go to school, you didn't graduate, you don't have a degree, you're not like us.
Okay.
Right? So that exists
Yep.
within our race.
Yeah. Stigma.
And on top of the fact, it exists outside of our race, right?
Yeah.
So you can have that division amongst our race just because you went to school, you finished school, you're a lawyer now, you're part of a fraternity.
Yeah.
Where myself, I'm a successful real estate guy.
Entrepreneur.
I'm very wealthy in so many minds, but guess what? From a social class, it's like, hey, you're not one of us, right? So that mentality that we complain about, that other races have on us, we actually have it within our own
Which is-
group of people,
Which we need to fix.
which is
Yeah.
crazy, but it exists,
sad.
right? And
Yeah.
I don't think we have to blame anything that happened outside of that. I just think that, just from a tribal instinct. You use that word.
Yep.
Because if you weren't a part of one tribe and you were part of another tribe, those tribes were beefing. There was no unity amongst tribes, right? So whether it's us trying to prove that we're better than the other, or whether it's, we're, instead of lifting brothers out, we're keeping brothers down so we can feel good up here. I don't know, some psychological stuff that we kind of all got to get through as brothers. But I think at one point we'll get there. I think the importance and the commonality that we find, apart from the social class of it, is our responsibility to our children. And I think if we live up to that, I think all that other stuff can kind of take care of itself,
and if you
no matter where you come from.
If you look back at history, like I look at social justice when Martin Luther King was going, and that's like you can look back and see how the black community all came together, and they had support from a lot of different races. So I think if we can create something that looks like that, where you have a shared vision for the future, where you dream of the ideal scenario for our grandchildren and our children, and this is the environment, and it was cool. It was cool to protest in peace, and showing the strength
Well, that
of
depends on what
that
side you was.
nonviolence.
It depends
Well, I'm
on what side.
talking about Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah, but you had King, and then you had
the Black Panthers.
you had Malcolm X. They felt a little bit different.
They had different philosophies.
Right.
But I'm talking about specifically Martin Luther
The
King.
unity, yeah.
And how effective that was.
I like it. I think that
and it was cool.
I like
for those
it.
people that followed.
No, I think it. I like it. I think we need to find a way to kind of get back to that, even to the Black Wall Street. I think we need to find a way how we as men kind of do business together, and how we kind of learn how to trust each other, and how we learn how to kind of lift each other up. I think these are all elements that we own to ourselves, and we have the power to kind of do that. And I think in this time and moment is probably the most important time to do it.
No question.
Right? Whether it's actually going to get done or not is a whole nother story, because I think we can talk to about 30 guys and they all want it. But I think for some reason, one way or another, there's something intrinsic that prevents us from kind of doing that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can overcome it.
Yeah, well, we need to. And hopefully your program can be the catalyst to kind of help us get there, because I do think we all want to raise our kids in safe communities. And we all want to make sure the communities that we live in become safe, and that the people that look like us, not just brown skin, but all colors and all cultures, that are finding themselves subject to harsher lifestyles, going through prisons, fathers being taken away, that they kind of wake up to the fact that we shouldn't have to be living like that. In our people and our children are the ones that are really suffering as a result of that. Whether it's political climates, political philosophies, I think we as men of color have that responsibility to kind of get our shit together. One way or another, and hold each other accountable, right? One thing I love about working with you, man, is like, I try to hold you accountable to things I think, man, you got to do a better job, and likewise, you kind of do that, and I think that has made our friendship
honesty.
That has made our friendship better, even though we have disagreements in some cases, in true form what I call a true brotherhood, because a true friend and a true brother is not somebody that necessarily agrees with everything you says. I know that I can sit here and tell you how I feel, and we can walk away and still be good friends. And I know that you can do the same, right? But I can't really say that
about everybody,
about everyone,
and just be comfortable just being that vulnerable,
and that's
not
what we
have to worry about the stigma or the judgment.
And that's what we got to get to, right? It's like, that tough love about each other. It's like, I can really, Scott, I'm gonna come after you. You're doing wrong. What you're doing is just totally crazy. You need to step your game up. Right.
Or stop doing this.
Or stop doing it. And I need to be able to say, okay, man, I got you. I hear you. I appreciate your feedback, as opposed to say, who you think you are, man? Get out of here, man. I ain't messing with you. You know what I mean? To let our egos get in the way, because sometimes I think our egos getting in the way are the very thing that's holding us down. Right? Hey, so Ja, It was great having you, man. I
Yeah.
love being a part of your family. I
Yeah.
love having you with us, man. We look more to hearing about what you're doing, the success of this program.
Yeah.
You know you got my support 100%, but if
Thank
you
you.
guys want to use that space, it's going to come with a cost. That's just how it is, man.
Always
Gotta
a
pay
businessman.
We got to pay the bills, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, sirs, can we get some of that music, man? We talk about Ja, and we can end this conversation,
Yeah.
and we can kind of get to another day. I don't know what
Thank
he's
you.
thinking about now. What just happened?
Nothing.
Is that the song?
No, it's a
Serge
different
just
song.
puts
It's
on
fine.
anything, man.
It's fine.
Love you, man. But hey,
Yeah.
let's go. Have a good
Thank
welcome,
you.
man. Thanks for having you, man. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
It's too late. It's already gone.
Wait, so why doesn't Lewis Real Estate do a workshop for men?
We should.
We can.
Do it.
I think that's a good idea.
It's not
We
just
gotta.
black men. It's
No,
all
married.
men.
Yeah,
Not-
we figure it out.
We do.
Right.
I
We
agree.
gotta.
Guys gonna hang out.
We gotta
I
figure it
agree.
out.
Friends. Do you hang out with like dads or did you? Bobby, what's up with you guys?
I think we gotta figure that out.
It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Put your kids together and then you can just bitch about being
It's not easy to do, but you got. It's
I
necessary.
think you gotta start.
It's necessary because it's normal.
How do we get?
Like your moms did it, your grandmas did it, your great grandmas did it.
So like
It's
because men were working
intergenerational.
and we were home.
It's not just working. It's just
No, but
like
It's a
the
habit.
when men get together, we're
I
golfing.
think you guys think it's like
We're
gay or
golfing.
something, like
We're
cheating or something.
It is
No, you know what
different.
it
It's
is?
different.
Listen, there's a reason why that most athletic sports, at least in terms of like football, basketball, because everyone has an ego, like I'm better than you. So everybody wants to.
Men.
Yeah,
So do
everybody-
women.
Yeah,
So do women.
but that's the only time
It's different. I think women have a nurturing personality to them that men just don't have.
I support women. A lot of women don't. They're
Yeah.
backstabbers.
No, but I'm saying a nurturing personality.
Yeah,
It starts with
yeah.